Hey guys, ChrisFix here, and today I'm going to show you how to find an exhaust leak in your car or in your truck. And after we find the leak, I'm going to show you how to seal it and repair it without using a welder. That way you can do this at home inexpensively using common products. You can find these products at your local stores, and they're very easy to use, they're very cheap, and you could do this quickly. Now, I just bought this Mustang, but it's not for me. It's actually for a friend of mine. I bought it for them because they need a car desperately, and what better car for me to get than a Mustang, which I know inside and out. Now, I got this car for a steal because it has faded paintwork and because the owner couldn't find the exhaust leak, and it sounds horrible. Otherwise, the car is in great shape. The engine has 130,000 miles on it. The air conditioner works. It has a brand new battery, brand new tires, some nice wheels, and the interior is in pretty good shape. It's gonna be nice to drive. So really, the only thing wrong with this car is it has a loud exhaust leak. I mean, listen to this. Not only is this leak loud and it sounds bad, especially when you're driving and giving it gas, when you have an exhaust leak like this, it could cause check engine lights to come on, you could lose fuel economy, and the engine just doesn't run right sometimes. Also, I could smell it already. There are fumes coming into the cabin, and you don't want to be breathing those in. So this is the perfect car for me to show you guys how to find exhaust leaks and then fix them. And finding them is the hardest part, but don't worry, I have a really cool process. It's an awesome method I came up with on how to find them easily. You don't even need to have the car running, and then once we find them, I'll show you how to seal it up, and here are all the tools and products you could use to do this. So first, we need to find the leak, and in order to do that, you're gonna be using a leaf blower, a shop vac, or an air compressor, anything to push air into the exhaust, create a positive pressure inside the exhaust system. Then we're gonna grab our soapy water. All this is dish soap and water. All you want to do is get something that's going to get really sudsy. So where the air is escaping, you're going to see bubbles, and that's how you pinpoint the leak. Once you pinpoint the leak, we have 3 different products to use to seal the leak. First, we have our putties. This is like a Play-Doh. You push it into the crack or the leak, and then it hardens like steel. Then we have our muffler bandage, which is like an ace bandage. You wrap around the muffler, and then it seals it off and gets really hard as well. And finally, we have our exhaust band clamp, which goes over the damaged area and seals it off when you tighten it down. This will pretty much cover everything that you need to fix your exhaust. The only extra bits that you're gonna need are some gloves, some tape, some sandpaper, and a metal wire brush. These are good because this is going to help you clean the area before you apply your fix. And I will be sure to link all these products down below in the description so you could easily find them. Once you figure out what's going to be the right product for you, you can easily check it out, find it, and order it so you can fix your exhaust. And speaking of fixing the exhaust, let's go get started fixing the exhaust on this Mustang. And first, we need to find where that leak is coming from. Since the leak is near the front, I'm going to use ramps to safely lift the front of the car up for easy access. And with the front end lifted up, it's always a good idea to get some wood and chalk off the rear wheel so it doesn't roll. And now we are ready to pressurize the exhaust system. So we have to come to the rear of the car, and on this Mustang, since it's a V6, it only has a single exit exhaust right here. Now I'm going to be using my shop vac to pressurize the exhaust. So just shove that hose up into the tailpipe and tape it so it doesn't come out. Good. Now since this is a vacuum, we do need to switch our hose around from the front. And now when we turn this on, it blows air into the exhaust instead of vacuuming. So we are good to go. One flip of the switch and we have a positive pressure going into our exhaust, and we're able to find where that leak is. Now, not every car has a single exit exhaust. Some cars, like my Mustang here, has a dual exit exhaust. So what you would do here, I'll use the leaf blower as an example. You get your leaf blower and you mount it up into the exhaust tip like that. And then for the other tip, nice and simple, get a nitrile glove and fit it around the exhaust to seal it, and then tape it off like so. So now you know how to pressurize the exhaust with a dual exhaust and on a single exhaust. I'm gonna shut this off, and let's go turn this one on and find our exhaust leak. And since our leak sounds like it's coming from the front, I'm gonna go start by checking up by the engine. And one thing I should mention is you want the engine to be completely cold. You don't want a hot engine. You're gonna be spraying soapy water on the exhaust. You're also forcing cooler air into the exhaust. And when you cool things down quickly, they could warp or crack, and you wouldn't want that. So the first thing to do with a cold engine is grab your soapy water and spray down the entire exhaust manifold. And don't be afraid to use a lot of soapy water. You can never use too much. What you're gonna be looking for is bubbling, which is caused by air escaping through a hole. And that's where your leak is. And right away you could clearly see where the exhaust is bubbling. We have a leak at the front of the exhaust, we have a leak right over here, and just as I figured, it's super common, we have a leak at the manifold flange. And there we go. It is that simple to find exhaust leaks. We found 3 on this side, but don't stop there. You want to check the other side as well. So grab your soapy water, we're gonna come around here and I'm gonna remove this intake. I already loosened it up, and we're gonna go check out the exhaust on this side. So again, spray it down and get it completely soaked. And I'm not seeing any leaks at all. So this side looks good. I don't see any bubbles, which means we don't have leaks. Now there's one more thing I wanna check, and it's the exhaust underneath the car. So slide under the car, and we have 2 exhaust pipes we need to check for leaks. And I think you get it by now. You need to spray everything down completely with soapy water. Concentrate on the spots that have welds or that they have the flange or the connectors here, because a lot of times those spots are the ones that'll leak. So make sure you get that soaking wet and look for air bubbles. And after spraying down these 2 exhaust pipes completely, I don't see any leaks at all under the car, and that's always a good thing. Alright, so after spraying down the entire exhaust, the only leaks that we could find are the 3 leaks over by the exhaust manifold on the driver's side and at the flange there. And I'm going to show you how to easily seal those leaks. But first, real quick, I have a muffler out here. Actually, this is the muffler from my Mustang. And the reason why I have it here is because I want to show you something. There's a small hole in many stock mufflers. You can see that hole right there. That is from the factory, and it's designed to allow water to leak out when the car is not running. That way it doesn't collect in here and then rust and create an even bigger hole. So if you spray down the exhaust and you find yourself a hole at the end of the muffler, leave it, don't seal it up. I wanted to explain that real quick because that's pretty important. Now we do have holes in our exhaust that we do need to seal up, and let me show you how we're going to do it. And to seal them, we're going to be using a high temperature exhaust putty. This is specifically designed for the exhaust manifolds and exhaust pipes that get very hot. You can see here, it can withstand 2400 degrees of continuous heat. And it's great for exhaust manifolds, tailpipes, mufflers. You get the idea. And before we apply this, we need to prep our exhaust manifold. To do that, grab some sandpaper or a metal wire brush, and we're going to clean away all the loose dirt and rust and scratch that metal surface anywhere we're going to apply the putty. That way the putty has a nice surface to bond to. So after you sand the area around the exhaust leaks, get some isopropyl alcohol on a towel, get a little bit on there, and we're going to wipe down the areas we just sanded to clean them up. Make sure it's free of any dust, grease, or dirt. That way we can get a good bonding surface. Alright, so with everything cleaned with the alcohol, we are ready to seal those exhaust leaks with our putty. Actually, one real quick tip that's super helpful. Take the hose out of the vacuum and flip it around, so now the vacuum can suck the air out of the exhaust. And this little trick is gonna make our repair that much better, because now the air is getting sucked in. So when we add our putty, that putty is gonna get pulled and drawn into the holes and the cracks that's causing the exhaust leak. It's gonna give us a better seal. Also, I don't know if you can hear it now, but there's air hissing from the air getting sucked in. When we seal it up, that air shouldn't be hissing anymore, and that means we sealed all the leaks. So let's remove the cap and activate the putty by stirring it good so it's a consistent paste, similar to the look of concrete, just like that. Now, let's apply it to the spots that are leaking. Be sure to press it into the areas that are leaking and then add more putty in the area around that so that you can seal that leak in good. Repeat this process with the other leaking areas, and the flange down here is definitely the biggest leak, so use a lot of putty and pack it in there. I'm going to be pressing in the putty around the entire flange, and you can actually hear that leak getting sealed up. Beautiful. Alright, and you can hear that hissing noise has stopped, which means we sealed up the exhaust. Now the biggest leak was definitely coming from that exhaust flange at the bottom, and I bet you that's where most of the exhaust noise was coming from. And just to give you an idea, we did end up using basically all the putty to fix those leaks. Also, if you do get the putty on something that you don't want it on, all you have to do is grab some soapy water, spray it down, and wipe it off while it's still wet, and it comes right off. Now, what we need to do is let that cure. This could take anywhere from 2 to 24 hours, depending on how hot it is outside. The hotter it is, the quicker it'll cure. And that means you can use something like a heat gun or a hair dryer to heat that up and make it cure faster. But whatever you do, do not start that engine. The positive pressure from the exhaust will blow out all that putty, and all that work you just did was wasted. So now we just need to let this dry. And as we let it dry, I'm gonna shut the vacuum off and remove the hose from the exhaust pipe because we don't wanna start up the car with that in there. And as we let that cure, there are still 2 more methods on sealing up a leaking exhaust, and I wanna show you those real quickly. The first one's using an exhaust clamp, and the second one is using a heat wrap. And I'm gonna show you both of these methods on my truck, so let's go underneath. So here is my truck's exhaust, and I don't have any holes in the exhaust. But as you guys know, I like to show you proof that what I do actually works. So I'm gonna cut a nice hole with my plasma cutter, and you could think of this as a hole in your exhaust system that was created by rust. Now with a rust hole like this, you have 2 main options. You could go with an exhaust clamp like that. This will clamp real tight and it'll seal it off. Or you could go with an exhaust bandage or an exhaust wrap like this, and you just wrap it around, almost like if you wrap duct tape or black tape around here, except this is designed to take the heat. First, I'm gonna show you the exhaust clamp. All you have to do is wrap the clamp around, add the 2 bolts in, and then tighten them down so it clamps hard and covers the hole. But check it out, with my truck running and a little bit of soapy water, you can see there are no leaks at all. And since this is stainless steel, it'll outlast your exhaust. And then the last option is the exhaust wrap option, but in order to do this, you want the exhaust to be hot. So start the car up and run the engine until the exhaust is almost too hot to handle. Let's see if it's hot. Oh yeah, that is definitely hot. And then there's clear tape on both sides that you want to remove, which reveals the really sticky surface. Now you want to wrap this around the exhaust as flat as possible, overlapping about an inch. It's a little tricky, especially in tight areas because it wants to stick to everything, but once you get the method down, it's not that bad. And be sure to keep it nice and taut so it creates a tight seal. And that looks pretty good. Beautiful. Now the instructions do say to run the car, but I'm not gonna do that. I don't like the idea of having a positive pressure, which could just blow this out, and then you could get leaks. So instead, I have a heat gun, and I'm just gonna run this heat gun back and forth for a few minutes until it hardens. So now this is solid as a rock. And if we start the truck up, you can see there are no bubbles, there's no air escaping, and it's quiet, so we sealed that giant hole. And that was a large rust hole, so that's a pretty good fix. So now you've seen the 3 methods on how to repair your exhaust without a welder. You guys should be experts by now. Now it's been about 2 hours since we did the Mustang, and I do have a little bit of help here. For the last 15 minutes I've been using a heat gun just to make sure it's cured. And to verify that this is completely cured, all you gotta do is get your fingernail and try to indent the putty. It should not indent, it should feel solid as steel. If it does indent, then you wanna make sure that you heat it up or let it dry longer. In this case, this isn't indenting. So we are ready to test out the car, start her up, and see if we sealed up the leak. All right, moment of truth. This is the part that gets me excited and nervous at the same time. Did we fix it? Beautiful, it is quiet. And that is what I'm talking about. Listen to that, it's so quiet. I don't hear the exhaust anymore. It doesn't sound loud and embarrassing. And I don't smell the exhaust fumes because we sealed it up. Here's the before. And here's the after. Before and after. And that is how you find an exhaust leak and then seal it up really quickly, really easily. Not counting the cure time, this took me a total of about 15 to 20 minutes, and it's cheap to do. All these products are inexpensive. I'll be sure to link the products in the description. And just so you know, I've done this on my truck about 6 years ago, and it's still sealed up and it still works fine. So it is a long-term fix. It's nice to be able to do this stuff at home without a welder. So hopefully the video was helpful. If it was, remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing for more helpful DIY videos just like this.